March the 22nd, 2018. I'm Dana Durnford, your host. Hang on. There we go. Oh, that's good. I just tipped a cup of tea over down on top of all the wires that I moved different positions so they couldn't get. That happened, it wouldn't be an issue, so we got lucky, just had to mop it up. Hi to everybody worldwide. Thank you for finding the time. We got a rock'em sock'em show for everybody today. We're gonna kick off with a couple of clips though. Turn my volume down, turn the music down. We're gonna kick off with a couple of clips because we had a bit of luck. And there you go, we're back at speed. And so, by now everybody that's familiar with the boat, the sailboat. So made it all the way over to Texado Island. We're gonna enjoy it back and go home, get ready for tonight's show. That was last week. Where Japan says silence the activists across the pond. That was last week. Well, we got the big one up. That was a few days ago. Get off course here. Don't pay attention. We got the big one up. Hopefully we got it on high quality. It was looking like it was on high quality. Yeah, it was on high quality. That's pretty awesome. And so I deliberately wanted to put it up a little off center, wrap around the halyards, because the wind's great, perfect conditions. The boat's tacking really good just to tilt it and then bring it back. The idea of that was to wrap it around the halyard. And so we're going to go out on the expeditions. One of the things was missing was the GPSs. And PayPal decides to put the money directly into my account, not even make me wait 24 hours. And so we got the first GPS. I got a limit each day what I can burn on the bank card, but tomorrow we'll go get another one. Like this one is $850. This is high-speed one for the sailboat. This is a GPS plotter and sounder. And the other one is for the little Zodiac. I'm going to have to spend $500 to get the handheld with a 3-inch screen. I might as well get one of these with a 7-inch screen, but not as quick as this one. And maybe I will spend the extra $200 and get the same one. But tomorrow we'll have 2 of those boxes. That's huge. That is so huge. That is incredible. We got our hands on that. So these are incredible plotters and sounders that we need for these expeditions to complete it. The center boat has the radar, a 10-inch plotter, integrated sounder, so it's okay. But the other 2 boats needs at least GPS to get in and out of anchorages. Remember, I'm going into the rock piles every day. Sorry, I'm going into these rock piles every day. And so you need a really good GPS because you're in the middle of nowhere and shit goes wrong all the time, obvious. And this time I have weight up in the bow. We'll jump right into the rest of the show coming up. So that's pretty rough. Now we're going to have the new Zodiac with a kicker on it on top of that. Both of them have double motors. And the sailboat is got sails and spanker and jibs, and so it's got 5 sails and a motor, diesel motor. And then we got the 7-inch sounder for the little Zodiac and a 7-inch plotter sounder. Both of these are plotters. Very, very high end, both of these. They're on sale, and I'm going to grab 2 of them. Another one tomorrow. It's huge. That completes the mission. Now we can go back up and take on the entire coastline again. It's good. We're heading into summer. We're not going into winter. As winter is happening, to get the data. We went out, and so anybody's not familiar with that, let me run through it right quick. What I done was we covered thousands of headlines on Fukushima. And lots of that includes Canada. We're going to talk about Canada coming up right away. So what we done in British Columbia was we went out and done species count. This is before and after in the same place known as Louise Narrows in Haida, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands. So I went out and done species count. The species were missing. And to put it into perspective, all the arrows are where we done species counts, plus many, many more spots. They're just meant to help you comprehend the enormity of what we have done. And so even if you fill the beaches up with people, because I did cover the whole beaches, even if you did fill it up with people, they still weren't going to find the species because the species are gone. And this was because of the meltdowns in Japan. So why would you take a chance in having a meltdown? So you don't, a nuclear bomb is much more better to have a nuclear bomb go off than a reactor melt down. So how bizarre is that statement? Because a meltdown is nuclear bombs a minute, forever. And history has showed that the ocean doesn't recover. Now we're going to go out and do a species count again for 7 months. In about 8 days, I'm taking off. Well, we got the big one up. I got 2 of those big. We got the new camera. We got incredible amount of equipment for a low ball operation that we're considered. Now, Pickering Nuclear Generating Station, if Canada's nuclear reactors melt down, what? Just don't even go there. They picked up 30 million bags in Fukushima just to trick people, but all 14 prefectures north of Tokyo, and including Tokyo, are highly radiated. People should not be there. And so can you imagine 120,000 spots like that over there full of 1-ton bags? If Pickering melts down or Darlington melts down, you're going to lose all of Toronto. So you want to go out to 50 miles with what they call potassium iodine. I'll show you some of that documentation coming up where they already distributed potassium 10 miles out, and we're going to mail it out to 50 if there was an accident, kilometers rather. Now, this is Japan's reactor. Have a look at it over there. This is what it should look like. The reactor cores are stored on the roof. And because of that, they picked up 30 million 1-ton bags. Hi to everybody. Welcome everybody to the live stream. Let me get rolling. We'll come by in a little while and say hi. Now, recently, Simon Fraser University, now anybody knows me knows that I've come out and basically forensic investigative journalism upon all their presentations from Harvard University, Yale University, Stanford University, Oxford University, et cetera, worldwide, in major institutions, and showed how they were deceptive and deceitful and lying, and therefore we're now in a lot of trouble. Now, so Simon Fraser came out to talk about Fukushima. They showed that particular part of the reactor. Now, when you look at the reactor building over there, that's what the reactor that she has is modeled after. If you utilize the one that I commonly use, you see they're the same reactors, no different. And so we can use mine instead of the one she had there. You still get the same results. That the building is gone, the reactors are gone, and the fuel pools are gone.
It's not comparable to the releases of 6 tons of fragmented fuel from the Chernobyl. So how...
Now, can't remember his name now, from Simon Fraser University. We had just covered him and Paul Schaefer, which is right there. And What you got to understand going on here is that there's 5 million pounds, not 6 tons. I forget what the tonnage is. I should have done that tonight for some reason. So he talks about all the...
and living next to a nuclear power station can actually contribute less than your loved one when it comes to the amount of dose you receive. Coal-fired power...
So living next to a power plant is a lower dose than sleeping next to your loved one. So what he was doing was, if you listen to the whole lecture, is they were manipulating everybody by claiming, and by the way, I'm Dana Durnford, the nuclearproctologist.org. You can find more about me over there and the expeditions. Now he's saying it's like a banana, walking in the sunshine, getting on an airplane, sleeping next to somebody, climbing a mountain. You can see it all right there. And so why did the people in the audience giggle and laugh when he said...
and living next to a nuclear power station can actually contribute less than your loved one when it comes to...
how did everybody know that that was wrong and that was funny and laugh? He's being serious because he knows what's going on the internet, so he's trying not to crack a smile. But that's because that's a nuclear university and they're all in on the joke. And the joke is... 50 becquerels a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in your vital organs. So how shocking is it that the university is lying to everybody publicly or laughing at the jokes because they understand how deadly it really is? It's the most carcinogenic thing that exists. And low doses on its own can cause heart diseases and strokes. So even a small release from a nuclear power plant to the surrounding neighborhood, up to 6 times more breast cancer, is serious stuff. Childhood risk of cancer, by the way, from radiation is 10 to 100 times higher than an adult who had the same exposure. And the Wall Street Journal had reported how officials sharply raised radiation levels for residents to get iodine pills after the meltdowns, 75 times higher than the maniacs that the World Health Organization had recommended for children. And then at the same time, we see infant deaths are also up in BC, Canada after Fukushima, which collaborated a US study showing a large spike in deaths, particularly infant deaths, in the 14 weeks following the Fukushima. Now, this is one of the reasons I'm sure that David Suzuki had made this incredible statement.
The fear is if there's another earthquake of a 7 or above, that building will go, and then all hell breaks loose. And the probability of a 7 or above earthquake in the next 3 years is over 95%. I have seen a paper which says that if, in fact, the 4th plant goes under an earthquake and those rods are exposed, it's bye-bye Japan, and everybody on the west coast of North America should evacuate. Now, if that isn't terrifying, I don't know what.
I don't know what it is. Now, what he was talking about, I don't know why I'm way back here. Oh, yeah, we never finished up on the graphics. Okay, let's go finish up on the graphics. We'll go back to Dave, pick up at David Suzuki in just a few seconds. How about that, okay? Share me on Facebook if you don't mind, if you could. If you can't, I understand it. But if you're smart, you'll find a way. They'll reject it, but just keep trying. Find other ways to share me. Put up a different name and then just link over towards me. Pretty please. And so the last expeditions, we also noticed most of the spider webs, if not all of them, were missing from the forest, among other things. Of course, hey, certain industries don't want me. They're trying to confuse you. And
Never believe who it says I'm related to.
Right, so they spend all their time trying to confuse you and just lull you with nonsense. This is the zombie nuclear industry apocalypse. The people in the nuclear industry are not actually zombies, but they act like zombies. They know exactly what the harm is. And for energy, you want to put your windmills on the mountains. I know this is revolutionary thinking here. Put your windmills on the mountains because that's where the wind blows all the time. So it don't matter if there's strong winds offshore or onshore. If you put them in the community, you're going to piss off everybody anyway. But if you put them in the mountains where nobody sees them, the wind blows all the time, are you still producing energy? Of course. And they want you to think about that they're special or something, but they took me off of YouTube for the 7th anniversary, right? They shut down my regular channel. Now we got it back up and running. We can't live stream, so we're at the Nuclear Proctologist on YouTube. But now I can post back at my site. They took one of the, and this is extraordinary because I was a partner long before you could apply for it. They had sent me a link. I had accepted it and became a partner on YouTube. Before Google bought YouTube, I was a partner. So at that point, we're the original partners. We're different than the current, what you see with the current partners. I'm still on that old system. They've tried everything they could to get me off it. So Suzuki, now he was talking about, sorry, not that building, this building here. He said, if this building to your left, unit 4, if that building goes, it's bye-bye Japan. Now, it's the same thing for Pickering, Ontario, or for Toronto. If Pickering, Ontario goes, it's bye-bye Pickering and Toronto and Quebec. Yeah? And New Brunswick, everything downriver at St. Lawrence, it's going to get destroyed. Even worse over a short period of time, because the fallout never stops from these reactors. By the way, that's part of the reactor core. That's the bottom part right here. And that part over there is the top part of the reactor core. And that yellow thing is this bulb up here. All of them are supposed to be way underwater. And these fuel rods are reactor cores. This is 5 million pounds in the building. They've done everything they can to trick you and to think you that this is, they got fuel out of a pool. By the way, that's the elevator shaft you see behind me, that they lower this stuff down. It goes over there and down that shaft behind my finger. See that shaft back there? There's a couple of them, right? And you lower it down to the bottom of the building where they have trucks. Now, there's no bottom of this building. You can see behind me. No bottom to the building whatsoever. Everything is gone. And so they've been at it, manipulating everybody and picking up 4 million one-ton bags, which is 5 rows of traffic around the planet to try to deceive people and get people to go back. Okay. Then it brings us to him, David Suzuki, who's a sellout, don't get me wrong, but what he said is important because in Canada, he literally has more followers than God. Now, evidence of sharp features in the Fukushima plume over southwestern British Columbia and Health Canada. And they hid this away for a couple of years, but then it got leaked out, and then it was confirmed it's never been denied. So studies on the radioactive releases. We've got a really good show here for everybody, as you notice, I'm sure. So the data showed a large spike in deaths. The nuclear regulatory now, Gunnison shouldn't even be in this one because they don't need Gunnison to report on the story. They were pumping him out. He also told you they got the fuel out of the pool. He made the assemblies for the pool. Ernie did. And because I'm going to be saying that a lot, I should capture that so I can just post it whenever I want it. That's kind of fun when I do that, right? Yoink. See it like that. So Gunnison made the assemblies for the fuel pool, but yet he'd never come out and said the pools were gone. He said they were getting the pool, so ignore him. But NRC wanted, and did, most likely, radiation exposure limits 100 times higher than the EPA, the maniacs at the EPA. Now, radiation health specialists, children with 11 becquerels, over 11 becquerels, start to see heart problems. Well, if you keep feeding it to them, it gets liver, lung, and respiratory, and pituitary, and thyroid, and adrenaline problems. And it just continues. There's over 1,800 illnesses and diseases can show up, and will show up, of course, because cancer takes 10 or 20 years to manifest and be diagnosed. By the way, Alzheimer's, dementia, and diabetes will also show up before cancer. So Pickering even has a small accident, and they have, then you can expect, because there's so many transient people around Toronto, you're not able to get it statistically. You will see an increase, but you won't be blaming it on that. You'll blame it on 100 parts of the industry. See, radiation pulses every second. This is what makes radiation so hideous. Plastic doesn't pulse every second for infinity. So cancer within 5 years, in other studies, scientists, irreversible heart damage for 50 becquerels a kilogram. And Japan is feeding everybody 100 becquerels a kilogram, shipping it worldwide and complaining because people don't want it, forcing it on the people. But 50 becquerels and 11 becquerels for children is catastrophic. So an accident at Pickering or Darlington or Chalk River or any of the other nuclear power facilities is devastating down the road. When the administration that's in charge in the government right now is long gone, their children, their friends, their families, their loved ones themselves will start showing up with the illnesses. So it's in their best interest to end this misery machine, because that's what radiation is. In small doses can be disproportionately worse, and doses spread out over time might be more dangerous than doses given all at once. Because your body can deal with a dose, and it takes 10, 20 years for the cancer to show up. But if you're getting it constantly, your body is aggregating it constantly, then you're not recovering at all. Your white blood cell counts are traveling at huge numbers. The more you eat, the more you consume, the more you drink, the more you breathe. Over a year or 2 or 3, you really start to screw the body. You start getting leukemias because you displaces your red blood cells carrying oxygen and nutrition, and you're susceptible to all the other pathogens and viruses and diseases and illnesses and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. And radiation, and definitely doses spread over time, more dangerous than doses given at once, is another consideration should be taken into consideration. Thyroid cancer risk lasts your entire life after peak exposure, but when it detonated, you got a bigger release than you do later, obviously, yeah? I don't think anybody's going to argue that point. When the fuel rods go pop, then leukemia risk peaks in a few years because your white blood cells. And so radiation pulsing every second, just pulsing. It sequesters in your muscles, your organs, and your bones. I'll show you some of those studies coming up in an appropriate spot. Thyroid abnormalities in 55% after just a couple of years. 2013, 11 to 15, attaches girls 3 times more, and girls are born with all their eggs. And so we have to protect the women and the female species at all costs to preserve life on Earth and humanity and the 8 million vulnerable species that are being annihilated as we speak. Girls, we have to protect the girls, and girls can travel in space, males can't. Males go blind, girls don't. And because girls are born with the eggs, we have to put all of our fight into protecting them at all costs for this planet. We have to do that. And what we're seeing is, normally now this is 1 in a million. I'll find that clip and play it for you. There's many like it. I'm going to turn that up this time for a change, for a click it, because it's a short.
But there's clear evidence rates have risen.
This is Japan, a documentary at Al Jazeera, but they were interviewing a doctor who made a startling statement that we already have.
The disaster in 2011, the rate of thyroid cancer was between 1 and 2 cases in every million children.
So 1 and 2 per million pre-Fukushima. Post-Fukushima, 13,646 out of 24,000. 24,000 didn't. So out of 38,000. Now imagine if it was 13,646 out of a million, and then I played that clip for you where it's 1 to 2 pre. You'd be like, whoo, that's mad. But this is mad. This is 35%. See? This is... what's the words they like to use? Statistically significant, okay? And so no matter which one of these I use, they're both the same buildings, okay?
Myself, as one of the principal investigators, was awarded $6 million.
And we had to spend that in 15 months. This is Paul Schaefer for Simon Fraser University. Right after Fukushima, he had come out and said that you get more radiation sleeping next to your loved one than you would by living next to a nuclear power plant, among a whole bunch of other lies, in order to downplay Fukushima. He had just got $6 million, and he had to blow it in 15 months. If you go listen to the lecture, he talks about that right away as a disclosure, which when you work it out on a calculator is $20,000 a day, 5 days a week, to pay journalists and people like that. See, is what that was all about, to tell those lies, to put him on a pedestal and to protect him in the media. Give the editor $20,000, give the journalist $10,000, you're good to go. And put your lie out there. And so he went to all the local medias, passed it around. Now they're all like, that was easy money. All I had to do was just print that stupid little story. He wrote it. We didn't just put our name on it. Now they don't even put their names on it. You notice that? So using their model, the building is gone. This means Toronto is destroyed permanently. All the Great Lakes are destroyed. And what makes this really interesting is how they try to downplay it. By the way, now we go back and look at pre-Fukushima, way back in the day, 1987, when it used to be the average tritium. Now, tritium is what they consider the most benign, but we know tritium, pre-Fukushima, pre-nuclear, there was only around 110 kilograms in the entire oceans. And then open-air testing, they released around 1,100 kilograms of tritium into the environment. So pre-human history, or pre any nuclear history, before nuclear existed, there was 110 kilograms on the planet of tritium. And now tritium, I got studies coming up to whip through for everybody about tritium. Great Lakes open water was 7 to 10 becquerels a liter, 9-11 becquerels a liter, Lake Ontario. And they concluded that only about 10% of this amount could be due to the releases from Pickering. Now they increased the limits in Canada to 7,000 becquerels a liter because of Pickering and Darlington, see? But we don't talk about the fact that the reactors run on uranium and plutonium for some reason. So in June 1991, Health Canada monitored levels of tritium in the Ottawa River following a spill from Chalk River. And the highest concentrations in drinking water that they emit to was 400 becquerels a liter at Ottawa, 200 kilometers downstream. So what this shows us, though, is that the radiation can make it to Ottawa no problem from Pickering. Yeah, you with me? Were we on the same page yet? The level's been diluted to about 150 becquerels a liter, but a becquerel can't be deleted. It's still a becquerel. And if you get it in your body attacks with white blood cells forever. So there's a cause and effect. Minute traces, what they call minute traces to play it down, tritium from the releases were detected in Montreal, past the point of confluences of the Ottawa and St. Lawrence River, which goes all the way down to the East Coast. Now, if you got a meltdown, you're talking insanity. The prevailing counterclockwise circulation pattern in the lake carried the tritium plumb northeast to Port Elgin, where drinking water levels reached 1,600 becquerels a liter. Wow. September 1983, releases from the Douglas Point reactor in Bruce Peninsula, Ontario. I look what they go is, once again, provided an opportunity to model the dispersal of the tritium in Lake Huron, as if it was somehow a good thing. Demons. So, on the other hand, if the sample is taken from a surface water supply located near a nuclear facility, then it should be analyzed for radionuclides that might be suspected from the facility, like the rest, like curium, other nasties. And so they allude to the strontium-90s. And of course, there's all the other isotopes, the daughters of strontium, the iodine-131 and the 137, which are the tracers, which are ones they can find with the equipment that they got. So in their abundance, they're not sufficient to explain the gross particle count, then the presence of other fission product should be considered. In most cases, can be done quite simply without the need for further analysis. So if you carried out sufficient sensitivity, you can detect 131, then there's 10 times more 132 iodine, and 30 times more 133 iodine, and 31 times more 129 iodine. They ionize and radiate your thyroid glands 9 times more effective than the 131. But you can see how they start raising the numbers after Fukushima and before Fukushima. And they don't include the real isotopes, they only include the tracers. Transfer factors of contamination between German Bight and its tributary waters derived from measured tritium 137 activity concentrations. So what they discovered was very tiny quantities, not 7,000 becquerels a liter. And they avoid looking at all the other daughters of the isotopes like iodine, got tons of daughters. So tritium radioactivity in aquatic environments in Egypt, before we get to the main story, we got to cover some of the basics. This is an important story today. It's one of the most important stories Canada will ever receive for sure. Tritium activity is determined by standard techniques. So they discovered up there, in this part of the region, in Egypt, it was 6.3 becquerels of 3H. Tritium 3H is the man-made isotope of tritium, which in Canada, we now have jumped it up. Oh, you're going to have 7,000 becquerels because Pickering and Darlington are getting old. So xenon is not included in the studies. Tritium concentration in natural waters. Once again, we see studies showing 1.5 becquerels per blah, 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 which is nothing when you compare it to what Canada is allowing per liter, 7,000 becquerels, which means your hot tub with a cubic meter is 7 million becquerels, 1,000 liters in a cubic meter, right? So that would be a hot tub, big hot tub would be 7 million becquerels is acceptable. But if you got 7 million becquerels of tritium, you're going to have probably 50, 100 times of this stuff. It's a really insidious, radiation's insidious from this is why the dirty bombs is feared so much. Natural tritium determination, groundwater in Sicily, Italy, 1950 to 1980. And they have a limit of 100 becquerels a liter. But its present environment, mainly due to the residual fallout from nuclear weapons atmospheric tests, tritium reaches the Earth's surface mainly in the form of precipitation because it gets sucked down. Now, we make it in our solar system, but it's different than the stuff from a chain reaction. So they like to conflate that to confuse everybody. But once again, you see them alluding to it being attributed to the nuclear fallout from testing. Because pre-nuclear, there was only about 100 kilograms in the oceans, all the oceans combined. Now Canada's like, come on, we don't care, we're goblins. And by the way, americium is the one you should be worried about, not tritium. But tritium is definitely, it's lethal water in doses, continuous doses, over a period of time. Evaluation of environmental tritium and to the fauna and flora and insects and larvae. Evaluations of environmental tritium levels, pre-operation periods of the Canada nuclear power plant. Yeah? Pre-dem, 3.1 liters, 7.4 liters, 4.9 per liter. Go to Canada, 7,000 liters is acceptable in our drinking water because the nuclear industry has captured so many facets of our government. Our government is so big we can't control it. It's time to rein it down, get it small enough to control it. It's out of control at this stage. And the industry is vicious. They gave me 6 gag orders when I came off the last expeditions to silence me. And I'll be silenced right up until just past the 2020 Olympics. 3.5 years was the most he could give me. And the judge was like, 3.5 years is the most we can give you, Mr. Durnford. 3.5 years. Wish it was more, it was not. Pollution of ground sources of drinking water to silence me. Pollution of ground sources of drinking water and technogenic tritium. Once again, tritium now at 7,000 becquerels a liter. And they're not looking for strontium-90, even though they're mentioning it. See, if you found cesium, by the way, whatever cesium is going to be 100 times more strontium-90. So they dropped the numbers down because strontium-90 is much scarier than cesium. The fact that they even include it, because it's going to sequester in your bones, is insane. And then they don't even, then they talk about strontium-90, they don't talk about all the other isotopes of strontium. Some of that strontium can live for billions of years. Tritium in surface waters and is deadly emitters. Tritium in surface water, tap water, precipitation in Poland during 1994-99 period show 1.7 to 2.2 becquerels I can't remember what the DM3 is for some reason, but it's a very tiny amount. Rivers, lakes, tap waters, determined using blah, 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 blah. Tritium concentration in surface waters and precipitation are still higher than that of natural levels. But they were still low. Certainly nothing like what Canada's got. Insane, out of control. Goblins have raised the limit repeatedly. Tritium concentration in municipal water intakes in springs are by 20 to 100 and 10,000 times respectively higher as compared to the background value in Russia as a whole. Right? This is because of Chernobyl. What year was that? Yeah, 94, 99. Isotopes of cesium. Look at all the daughters of cesium. And so Canada just gives you the tracers and says that's all we got to worry about. So the reactors in Pickering and Darlington are a threat to the entire future of all of Canada. And like the story coming up as we jump into it, we roll through the rest of this to tell the story. Tritium in natural water. The bomb tritium injected into the atmosphere by installments after each nuclear test is a kind of fixed time marker constitute. So once again, this is why Canada drove the limits up so Darlington and the rest of them could have accidents. And they said, no, that's within the limit. And then they can have releases where they say, no, that's within the limit. But as you can see, what they're doing is refusing to say to the Canadians, do you mind if we raise the limit to oh my God level? Tritium concentration in fresh, brackish, and seawater samples bordered by nuclear fuel cycle facilities. Apparently they were really low, 2000, 2004. So why does Canada need such a high number? Ask yourself that question. Radon tritium measurements, this is just natural stuff, right? It's the radon, but they conflated it with the man-made tritium. Tritium-3H is man-made, see? So the risk of leukemia in young children exposed to tritium carbon-14 discharges at a German nuclear power station. So tritium and carbon-14 in the discharges from a nuclear power station and in fallout from atmospheric nuclear weapons testing. What part about that is that people can't wrap their mind around? Coming from man-made, they increase the limits because they're out of control in Ontario, Canada. They're completely out of control. Experimental induction of bone tumors by short-lived bone-seeking radionuclides. So animal experiments will help to elucidate the problems of radiation hazards. In addition, increase our understanding of the mechanism of radiation carcinogenesis. As if they haven't been doing it. Hey, look at this. Dr. Ray McGill-Mitty from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. His study shows that, say, 144 beagle dogs, they died at third sentence from the top. Tumors of the lungs, skeleton, and liver occurred beginning about 3 years after exposure. Well, you think that's not going to happen around Toronto and Quebec? Ottawa? Bone tumors found in 93 dogs were the most common cause of death. Well, what part about that is that policymakers can't wrap their minds around, I wonder? Oh, that's right, they refuse to acknowledge it. Lung tumors in 46 dogs were the second most common cause of death. And liver tumors in 20 dogs were the cause of death, and only 2 dogs occurred later than tumors in the bones and the lungs. By the way, chemotherapy is only effective 3% of the time, which means that the hospitals in Canada are murdering 97% of the chemo victims. Are you sick to your guts yet? It's a long way to go yet, and hang her down. We're getting there. This is ghetto shit. See? 7,000 becquerels a liter is lethal to Canadians down the roads. It's an utter betrayal. And it's because these reactors are old, they can't control it. And they can't store this stuff without venting it. And they're storing it on the site in a city, right on the major drinking water. You're disgusting parasites. It's such a disgusting industry. Such a despicable industry. Such a maniacal, twisted industry. It's hard to imagine that people like you exist.
Millisievert is... Oh,
1,000.
I'm going to get this wrong. I get this wrong every time. Somebody help me.
Microsievert's 1 in a million.
Millisievert is...
1 in 1,000. Say it.
In rems, it's like a
1,000th of
tenth of a millirem, I think.
It's 1,000th
right.
of...
Anyway, it's a very, very
1,000th
small
of a sievert.
You get about 600 millisieverts a year in background radiation. If you live in a higher elevation, you get more. And there are some parts of the world that are more naturally radioactive. I can't remember the exact location. The highest natural background is about 1,000 millisieverts, or about a rem.
1,000 millisieverts is a sievert. 3 sieverts is a lethal dose. You couldn't live there if you wanted to. You all die within a few hours. You get in a sievert an hour, 3 hours later, you're dead. So that's 3 sieverts. I'll wake up. But that's Margaret Harding out lying for the industry. Kind of slipped in there. Now this, and I'm not going to drag up the headlines to go with it, but
Fukushima plants say the ground under the facility is cracking and radioactive steam is escaping through
the cracks. Now, I'm bringing it up because otherwise if I don't, everybody say, like, how come Dana didn't bring it up? He can bring it up. He could find it if he wanted to. He would have found it because it's not true, folks. They'll chop it out, right? If I start talking about it, I got to provide the documentation. Or the industry, like, will jump all over it. Say, well, why ain't he reporting on it? By the way. Oh, crap. Hang on. I hate it when this setup I got jumps on me. Bear with me. Gotta find my spot. Well, that's easy to find because we're using that clip of RT. Yeah, there you go, right there. And 100 becquerels pre-Fukushima was nuclear waste. After, they say it's safe to eat. And Japan is selling food now at 100 becquerels. Before, it was nuclear waste. Okay? Hang on. Bingo. Now she said,
Fukushima plants say the ground under the facility is cracking and radioactive steam is escaping through the cracks.
TEPCO confirmed steam coming up from underground. So if Darlington or Pickering has an accident, all of these attributes are applicable to Darlington, to Ontario, to Toronto. You lose Toronto right away because the wind don't blow one way like they claim in the articles. I'm going to go through that coming up. 4.7 sieverts is a lethal dose right away. That's a lethal dose. By the way, it's 10 sieverts in 6 places an hour. These are 100% lethal doses within a few minutes. And so you're going to have to find people to go in there, and they're not coming back. They're going to die in Toronto, for hundreds of years. You're going to have to burn people on that reactor if it goes down. Not only that, while you're waiting, you're going to pollute the whole environment permanently forever. There was actually a plume from 3 Mile Island. Here it is.
The 3 Mile Island, Susquehanna River, Harrisburg, up here.
And the plume is where the animals were dying and people got diseases and lots of cancers later that they hid away from everybody. I got this interesting comment from this bizarre weirdo yesterday on my video. Now, disgusted by the obvious ignorance shown here, first, when harnessed correctly and disposed of correctly, nuclear power is the best energy source for our environment. Japan reactors were poorly manufactured, having low water accessible generators. The Canadian CANDU reactor is almost impenetrable, with multiple poison and rod type control systems, whatever that means. All gravity fit, multiple vacuum chambers. They're operating at around 56 atmospheres, and an atmosphere is 14.27 pounds per square inch. So that's why when they go bang, they really go bang because they're like 900 psi. Imagine if your car tire was 900 psi. Oh, boom, they'd blow your car into. But anyway, your cutesy little stream ain't convinced me, said Thunderfoot or anybody else. Oh, there's Thunderfoot. I can't tell which one is the Thunderfoot. One of these attacked me, so I had a boo at him.
Or you could ask someone who actually works with ionizing radiation and uses that knowledge to keep his own ass safe.
Oh. So what do you mean keep your ass safe? Are you saying it's dangerous? So now he's on an airplane with a Geiger counter measuring sunshine. You couldn't make this one up if I wanted to. So what he's trying to convince everybody is that the Geiger counter is going up because he's up high on an airplane. It's everywhere, ain't it? But he's talking about natural stuff. Natural stuff don't register on a Geiger counter unless you got it in large concentrations. It's not floating around in the environment. Potassium-40 is not floating around in the environment, whatever. But anyway, you go over to his site, who's very articulate, and all of a sudden he looks like some weird child, right? This is a public relation firm, most likely from the CANDU reactors, or it could be our old buddy Hala Krishna.
Krishna, freelance writer for Yuka Fuji. And I'm a generous member of the Scientists for Accurate Radiation Information.
I love him.
I'm pro-nuclear power generation.
I
Restart
want to have
of
his
the
baby.
nuclear plants much more beneficial than worrying too much about the fact-finding or the...
Nuclear power, ignoring it is more important than fact-finding, don't you think? I'm pro-nuclear. I'm a generous member. What the? Anyway, keep going. I think it's that guy here personally, but I'm not sure. But I was looking at his site and I'm like, this is not, the words are not matching up to the literature that they're consuming, right? They're a child talking like a nuclear expert. So how despicable that they got to do it that route. Speaking of routes, Darlington, Ontario Power Generation. Ontario Power Station is right on the bubble. Oh, I got to fix that, have I? I'm doing it again, Dana. I don't know what's wrong with it. Oh, I screwed that up. Hey, Darlington, see, Lake Ontario runs all the way to Montreal, which we know now from the studies on the tritium that it made it all the way down to Montreal, no problem. But we're talking, and Ottawa, by the way, and we're talking about this is right on Lake Ontario, right in Toronto. So all of Toronto becomes immediately destroyed. And so if you have a meltdown in Darlington, Ontario, the first thing they're going to do is...
Problem later occurs, they can say, well, the people on site, the workers made their own arbitrary decision to do this. It's not our fault.
Because in other words, they're going to lie to people to get them to go to the site.
For example, immediately after the first hydrogen explosion, TEPCO gave out an order a request to all of these labor dispatching companies, and they said, send us people who don't mind dying. At that time,
send us people who don't mind dying. Does that sound like Ontario Power Generation is going to run in there and spray Regents on the fuel rods? That person would have died right away. And the steam on that site at 10 Sievers, anybody walking around got a lethal dose anywhere on the site. They're insane. They're literally insane. The whole industry is completely 100% maniacal and suicidal and globalcidal and ecociding the planet. Fukushima nuclear plume covered most of North America, now over the North Atlantic, including the Caribbean and Canada's east coast. So a nuclear power plant is not just going to radiate Toronto and Montreal, and by the way, it's going to do it in Ottawa, and Montreal is past Ottawa, by the way, and Quebec is all the St. Lawrence and every community along it, New Brunswick and Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Sudbury, Labrador, everything and anything within 1,000 miles is going to get a brutal dose, and I'll show you the documentation of it. Once again, North America, by the way, from Fukushima, 5,500 miles away, still got 1,000 becquerels a square meter. Nuclear proctologist's work is never done. I tell you what. Everybody's like, Dana. Hang on. I'm getting too good at this. My job is the problem, right? That's why I got to go in the ocean for 7 months to calm down. I just groan every time I think about it. But I'm so busy, I can't keep up with it. So next thing you know, I'll be out going up the coastline and go, how the freak did I ever get into this position again? The Fukushima plume model shows 1 million becquerels a square meter over the west coast. Now, you don't say. Crap. Rain with 20 million particles. There goes Ottawa. There goes Montreal. There goes New Brunswick. There goes the St. Lawrence. There goes the Great Lakes. 220 million in another study from Fukushima. You know why? Because the jet streams are real. Say, Chernobyl was a paper towel. It destroyed the fishery in Switzerland, and you can't sell the meat or eat the freshwater fishery for 28 years, by the way, in Switzerland. And Chernobyl was a paper towel. Chernobyl was vicious, don't get me wrong. There's orphanages full of deformed children down there. Still, it's horrifying. It's terrifying that this is still going on. Nuclear should have been killed off in the 70s. I don't know how the hell it lived this long. It should never have existed. Its whole history is predicated upon deception and misrepresentation and lies and bullying and threats and intimidation and coercion and silencing the actual people like myself that are outspoken, polite way of putting it, I suppose, are dedicated to nuclear because it's a real issue and it threatens, it's not going to, but it now officially threatens all life on the planet because of Fukushima. A Darlington pill, because what we had happen to the West Coast, imagine if one of these goes down. We've already lost the West Coast of Canada and the Rocky Mountains, all the fjords and inlets and 27,000 islands because of Fukushima. And we contaminated Canada. But imagine another accident. This would be catastrophic forever. And the Atlantic at the same time. It's sickening we're even having a conversation. By the way, 1,700 kilometers away, government survey shows Fukushima fallout is spread throughout Japan. So the report paints a grim picture of Fukushima-scale nuclear accident in Pickering. The right kind of accident, meltdown there, you can't even get back on the site. Lethal doses. Round up the homeless.
I recognize there's a bunch of actual physicists in the audience. This is not a talk for physicists.
This is not a talk for the physicists. This is a talk for the public.
A talk for the general public.
You know why? Because it's all lies. You don't want to insult them guys. I recognize there's a couple of physicists in the audience, not for you. This is for the people we're trying to manipulate, okay?
Physicists have... So, you are all getting irradiated right now, and it's not the fault of my uranium.
So he's going to try to convince you of the big handful of lies he's been saying. The same lies for 74 years there they are. Walking in the sunshine is like a banana. Mind you, they don't actually say any of this very often. We beat the shit out of them now 3 or 4 years straight over that. We do it every day. We jump on them, jump on their fucking heads every day. Excuse me? Let's keep going.
If you've eaten a banana recently, you've got some potassium 40.
This is guy in Montreal, right?
In your body, it's just a natural component of all potassium. Your dose from a normal body load of potassium is about 0.2 millisieverts per year. Everybody remembers what a milli is? It's a 1/1000th. So 1,000th of a sievert per year you're getting just from your own potassium.
They're making all this up, by the way. Everything on the planet is already acclimated to the natural elements in our solar system created through fusion, which is the sun. Fission is the man-made nuclear. Everything on the planet, that's the building blocks of life. That's not radiation. They're not emitters. Once again, without it, nothing exists. It's in my clothing. It's in this paint. It's everywhere. It's in me. It's in you. Your body treats as homeostasis. And so what that means is your body regulates it like cruise control regulates the speed of your car, or the thermostat regulates the temperature in your house. Your body regulates it. You can't get any more in your body than you already have. But when it comes to man-made radioactive isotopes, they sequester in your muscles, your organs, your bones. Your body attacks with white blood cells like you do with flu, but much more viciously because it's emitting and pulsing every second. And so it's a long story, but there's a instant cause and effect. Where with man-made, with natural stuff like he's implying, these are benign and innocuous and harmless.
Some of which is radioactive. Gamma decay.
These are not radioactive. You can't pick it up with a Geiger counter. Geiger counter only picks up man-made stuff. It doesn't pick up the natural, harmless, indigenous, normal, everyday, stupid radiation that is not radiation. You can't make a dirty bomb out of potassium-40. Causing 26,000 cases of cancer, they say. A Fukushima meltdown at Pickering nuclear power plant would exact a devastating human and economic toll on the province. Well, it's much worse than that. These people downplayed it in ridiculous ways too, by the way. Causing 26,000 cases of cancer. Half of them fatal. An evacuation of 154,000 homes in York and Durham region and East Toronto. What? The wind only blows one way? There's only one release? What, are you insane? Like, that's insanity to even employ that only these places, and there's a limited 70% of the children, a region that includes Tokyo, far, far away from Fukushima. Everybody had your radioactive cesium. If you got cesium, you got 100 times more strontium in your body also. Plus, you got all the other isotopes. Cesium is just a tracer. Some areas would be uninhabitable for 100 years. I actually don't know which isotope they're referring to because... Oh, crap. My battery's low. Hang on. This thing hates me. That's because I tipped over a cup of tea and didn't plug it back in, I guess. 70% of the children tested, that's my Bluetooth for my lights. Because they're Bluetooth, I can turn them up or turn them down. Well, I could. Not anymore at this moment. I'll plug it back in after show. The region includes Tokyo, have radioactive cesium in their urine. Now, Toronto media was putting out some areas uninhabitable for 100 years. 50,000 square miles of Japan highly contaminated. Millions needed to be evacuated, and the government, not the government, but elements of the industry hit it. Losses from uninsured housing alone in Toronto would range of 125 billion. Now, I'll tell you what, how they come up with these numbers in a second. Bear with us. By the way, massive die-off sea creatures from California to Alaska. Animals starving as the food chain continues to collapse. Mass starvation events plague the West Coast. Felt like I was doing nothing but counting dead animals, they said. Well, we see a total extinction event now on the coastline of Canada in British Columbia. A report by the Ontario Clean Air Alliance. We never brought up any of this, by the way. West Coast bird die-off is biggest ever recorded. Stomachs are completely empty. Well, the reasons the bird died, 159, this is 500,000 birds died. Up where I was too, at the same time as I was up there, I didn't happen to find them. But we got all the reports of it. The reasons the animal died is because when they're flying over the coastline, they normally see that stuff over there and they just go down and eat, right? So you normally see stuff like that. They just go down and eat. Anywhere on the coastline, it would look like to your left, but now it looks like to your right. So all the species were gone. The birds kept flying, hoping to find the food, and it was all gone. Emaciated birds eventually all died, and they all died in the basic same areas, which were stripped areas. They flew the whole coastline looking for food and couldn't find it. And we know they couldn't find it because I went out and done the species counts, yeah? And so we're heading back out in 9 days or 8 days or 7 days or something like that with two skiffs and a sailboat. And I'm feeling good about it now. We got the GPSs and the other equipment. We're going to go back out and do species counts right along the whole coastline. Let's finish out the show here. 159. Was it Dana Boy? There it is, right there. Published on Sunday to coincide with the 7th anniversary of the earthquakes that triggered a Japanese nuclear disaster. Disaster! Fukushima plume model 1 million becquerels over the west coast after the explosions. That's us. That's why we lost all the species here. Provincially owned Ontario Power Generations, OPG, has applied to have the Pickering plant's operation license extended beyond its August the 31st expiry. So the story is dear because they're up for relicensing. You just get, like both Pickering and Darlington had $10 billion injected to it just after Fukushima. That's how maniacal the industry is. Well, we got to keep nuclear alive. We can't get a job anywhere. 220 million atoms. 55, like people that fit on a bus or an airplane, not 55,000 or 550,000 or 5.5 million or 55 million or 550 million, but 55. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get to 55. 55 becquerels is an evacuation zone. 20 million becquerels per liter of iodine meant all the other isotopes were there also. Could Fukushima happen in the Toronto area? Of course it could. Kind of did. Have a look at it for yourself. There's a risk. No one can say for sure what the exact probabilities of a serious accident is, but everybody knows the probability greater than 0. Therefore, you have to get rid of it. You have to shut it down. And you got nowhere to store it. Storing it by the Great Lakes could destroy the biggest drinking water in North America. Having it on the planet could destroy the planet. A meltdown at any of these plants, you might never get back to the plant. You'll lose the rest of it. If you have a solar flare, all these plants will melt down. You won't be able to stop the meltdown. You'll lose Canada instantly. You lose everything you work for your entire life. And all the way down to the East Coast, everybody's going to lose everything. You can trick them for a few years, but the reality will set in soon within a few years. Not long enough for you to disappear. You could also be vulnerable to a plane crash. What? Nuclear power plant vulnerable to a plane crash. And running power reactor, have a plane crash into it, you got to melt them. You got to evacuate Ontario. They'll play it down, they'll hide it, they'll pretend it never happened. They got lots of goblins well greased at it now, willing to do it again in a drop of a hat. But the reality of it is that just because you trick the people don't mean you trick the planet or the ecosystem. And so if you stay there, you're in real trouble and everybody else is too. And the industry is hell bent on making a living deceiving you, manipulating you. Why would you have it right on the lakes? Where you're going to poison everybody? Why put it right in a city where you can poison everybody? Why are you that demonic? Oh, we don't want everybody to drive all the way out there is one of the things they're going to say. And then you went from having maybe 1 or 2 becquerels per liter or cubic meter even to 7,000 becquerels in your drinking water as acceptable because Darlington exists and the rest of the nuclear power in Ontario, Mississauga. See, Toronto's gone. Everything over on this side and America's side is also wrecked. Here's a model based upon releases from Fukushima over a couple of weeks. So it starts out within a few days. It never stops coming out of there. And the wind doesn't just blow across the ocean. See, it actually goes all over China and all the way over to Vietnam and the Philippines. It covers all of Korea and Russia behind it. You see it starting to show up within a few days, but this is not an accurate trajectory. They try to say it all went over the ocean. The modeling is only based on a couple of days' releases. If you had an accident, it's going to be much worse than this. You contaminated everything. So to have it in Montreal within a few hours, within 4 hours, Montreal will be sitting in a cloud of radioactive isotopes. And everybody tells you iodine, you should grab them by the throat and try to choke them. The Clean Air Alliance says the 47-year-old Pickering facility, 47 years old. The reason they wanted to close it after 30 years was because of the Wigner effect. The Wigner effect breaks down the integrity of the steel, the metal, the cement, the wood from the alpha X-rays, neutrons, gamma shine of the facility, of the reactors and the rods, all they store it right in the ground, right around the nuclear power plant, and it's vented into the community. You can't contain it because of the buildup of the noble gases, hydrogen gases. It just needs oxygen, and then it'll detonate. So everything is vented. It has to be. Right, the so-called WIP repository, everything is vented. That's why they had the detonation down there. The Clean Air Alliance, say 47-year-old facility, the oldest nuclear generating station in the province. How could you even let it get to that age? Because the industry is deceptive and deceitful and vicious and ruthless and murderous intentions the entire time. Latest forecast says all of California on a radiation threat, April 6th and 7th, shows level as high as is in Japan. So the levels, just because you're in Pickering, the levels could be just as high in Ottawa within hours. You haven't even got time to escape in Ottawa. You don't got time to escape anywhere to go. Everywhere you go, you're going right into the radiation. You can't go down, you can't go up. You can't take the 401. Everywhere you try to go, you're going to be in a cloud breathing it. You got to shelter in place for weeks at a time. You can hide it, that fact that it happened, but I can guarantee you, you better hide because it did happen. And within the next 2 weeks, if you're going to work every day, you're getting vicious doses. And your children walking to school are getting the worst ones because this stuff likes to hang out close to the ground for the first couple of weeks. Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, as well as groups from like the International Atomic Energy Agency, these are real-life goblins, by the way, and the Operational Safety Review Team monsters in the World Association of Nuclear Operators. Now, to be a nuclear operator, you need a high school education. You go in and lick boots at a nuclear power plant, and they'll teach you the ropes. Now you're a nuclear operator. You're a big-shot nuclear operator. Mass murderer. I'd rather have Ted Bundy living next door to me and Charles Manson on the other side than you. Any day of the week, you vicious thugs. And the Ontario Liberal government says the plan will save electricity system $600 million. And it'll cost $50 billion in treatments in the local hospitals that you can't even fill up with doctors already. And it'll reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 8 million tons. By 8. I don't like, when I hear shit like that, pisses me off. Now they're claiming it's carbon free again. You know what that means? Hang on. Dirty buggers had to do it, didn't they? Can't get a break any day at all, you know? They got to come out with that friggin' carbon free. Just wants to go get them by the neck and got them. The carbon free crowd, they're a particular hideous crew. Eh? They're such a hideous, deceptive, disgusting bunch of backstabbing. Never mind. Hang on. Wait for it. Dana's getting into a rent again. No, hang on. Wait for it. I'll just do this. I'll do the short version. Dana ain't got a short version, folks. He's making it up. No, I'm going to do the short version. Dana's lying, folks. Don't trust him. He's got the long version. Look at him. He's liking it. He carbon free. He hates that word. Watch out now, baby. Carbon free, you say. So you got to dig one of these each year for a nuclear power plant. Or two. By the way, they like to say it's like a potato and it's like a banana and it's like walking in I haven't got it here, in sunshine. It's like the natural rocks everywhere. Yeah, well, how come you're not picking up the rocks and putting them in bags? And 30 million of them because of a meltdown. Hey, you're going to pick up 30 million bags around Pickering, Ontario, and Toronto, and Montreal, and Ottawa, and say, no, it's okay. It's like a banana. Canadians will gut you right on the side of the friggin' road. If you're going to abandon all your graveyards in Ontario and Montreal and Ottawa, woo, and you will, trust me. You got to dig one of these, they're carbon-free nuclear every year. That's what the Clean Air Alliance and the nuclear goblin industry means to me. You see, this is the most hideous thing conceivable. You can't visit your graveyards. To me, that is the ultimate slap in the face. So how is it carbon-free when you're boiling 1 million gallons a minute? By the way, salt water would be 1 billion creatures, 16 million glasses of water. Think of it this way, a minute. Why glasses of water, Dana? Well, because a glass of water normally has 1 billion creatures, and 75 to 100 million of them are normally the phytoplankton. The base is the food chain. The base is the oxygen chain. The base is the carbon sequestering chain. Have a nuclear accident, by the way. So these, by nature, are mass murder machines. All the eggs and larvae, small fries. There's one nuclear power plant in California where over 3 million fish are dead in front of the water intakes because it needs 1 million gallons a minute. Then they mix it with the isotopes from the fuel pools and boils it off into your community. You got 6 times more breast cancer, 90 times more leukemias. Then you got to run away and leave your supermarkets and your community behind. So carbon free, they got to drop it right on the fucking boat. Then you got to have chemical ponds evaporate into the community. Look at all your missile silos. Can you imagine how much cancer goes around these places? Because it's carbon free. It's carbon free, Dave. Carbon free. Stop telling the truth. Yeah, carbon free, eh? Carbon free. That's not a pond. That's chemicals. They're evaporating into your communities. Demons. There's over 1,500 abandoned uranium mines in Navajo in America. You just run away and leave it after. They don't care about you. They don't care about the ocean. They don't care about anything, only destroying the planet. And that's evident in their legacy, is it not? You gotta take one of these each year for your carbon-free nuclear, you shitheads. OPG says there are about 3,000 jobs at the nuclear plant. The jobs could transition, decommission, and dismantling of the plant. Take a decade. It'll take a decade to take a building down. And 3,000 people. Because it's like a banana, Danny. What do you expect? Double the wages, triple the health care, all the benefits for undereducated monsters. Pickering Nuclear Generating Station, where mass murderers are a dime a dozen. It's reported it overlays the impacts of the Fukushima and the Pickering area. This is where we're almost to the end of it. It notes that about 80% of the Fukushima radioactive emissions were carried out to sea, which was 5,500 miles to the next land, where there's 1 million becquerels a square meter. If Ontario were subject to the same contamination level, this is how they sell it now. This is how they manipulate everybody. Get a load of this. The highest doses of radiation would cover an area, because they model it right after Fukushima, the same, they call it a win. And what they're talking about is a single release. Fukushima had meltdowns. They picked up 30 million one-ton bags, okay? And the problem with this is you can't rush your way through it. You can't just, like, run through the story and just have a nice day. See all these terps? These are all bags. On the other side, they're growing rice because they're insane. So if Ontario had the same contamination levels and weather conditions as Japan, the high doses of the radiation would cover an area north of Lake Ontario between Toronto and Oshawa towards Barrie. And then southwest near London and Kitchener, and Toronto to Hamilton would receive lower doses. Are you fucking insane? The entire country is radiated. Even their sewage throughout the country, they're shitting out radiation, you demonic little goblins. Pickering, Markham, Newmarket, Whitechurch, Aurora, Northern Scarborough would suffer the most devastating impacts. About 653,000 people need to be evacuated. No, you got to evacuate all of Toronto, all the other side of the Great Lakes. You got to evacuate everything downstream, which means Montreal, Ottawa, all the way down to Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador. Everything has to be evacuated. And how are you going to get everybody to get out on the 401, the 404? Where are they going to go to? What are they going to do after? They can't go back. Oh, no, it'll be okay. We'll pick up 30 million one-ton bags. What we'll do, mister? We'll get them back, Dana. We'll trick them like we done to the dummies in Fukushima. Like, I don't know, no offense to the people in Fukushima. There's not many there, and those are there, besides the ostrich, they leave your community behind because you're not supposed to go back. They can trick you to go back by going around pretending that they're decontaminating, but spray power washing doesn't decontaminate. See, radiation is like magnetism. Think about it that way. So if I got a screwdriver, 1,000 screwdrivers, I can take a car battery and magnetize the screwdrivers. Yeah? Not only that, I can take each of the screwdrivers and put them in a box of different types of nuts and bolts and screws, steel nuts, bolts and screws and washers. and leave it there for a week or two, and they'll start magnetizing everything in there, and I can pick up a whole bunch with each screwdriver. This is what radiation does to all the property at the same time. This is why they're picking up 30 million one-ton bags, see? In 2015, the Durham Region Health Department, OPG, did a mass mailing, 2015, 4 years after Fukushima, of potassium iodine tablets, now known as K1. The potassium iodine tablets, you're supposed to take it before the accident happens. This is meant to manipulate everybody, but this was because of activism had forced them to go ahead and have to do this. And then those within 50 kilometers, if they got to take a pill, that means that whole 50 kilometers, because the wind doesn't blow one way forever. It has to change direction at some point. So everything gets radiated immediately. If it's blown towards Ottawa, within 4 hours, Ottawa becomes uninhabitable for 2 weeks to even go outdoors to take and run away. See, you can pretend that what I'm saying is not true. You can pretend what I'm saying is not even accurate. It's much worse than what I'm talking about. I'm downplaying it to have the conversation. OPG has to arrange with Canada Post to automatically send the tablets to new addresses and to address changes registered with the post office that are within 10 kilometers of a nuke plant because of a release. Why would you have it on the planet? How is potassium going to solve the solution of everything being radiated? See, you're trying to stop the thyroid because it shows up and it's hard to cure, or it's hard to stop the mass die, and the death from thyroid can happen pretty quickly after, as it happened to one of my friends out here right after the accident, who ate too much seafood, I'm sure. OPG liability, and, had 2 months to live, and he got his 3 daughters married. He took the money from his pension, cashed it out, and married off his 3 daughters because that was important to him, and then he died within 2 months of that. And he was a wonderful friend, an incredible soul, and had worked his whole life to see those kids grow up and have families. And to have his life taken away that way, it was disgusting. OPG's liability, by the way, is capped at $1 billion. $1 billion. So they don't give a fuck about you. You can't do jack shit. They're going to give that to their crony businesses around the place. You're going to get none of it. Leaving most property losses unrecoverable, says Gibbons. The Insurance Bureau of Canada confirmed to the start that private insurers do not offer coverages for nuclear accidents. Have a nice friggin' day. How's your day going, eh? And so what they do is they pretend they fix it, and then they trick you into going back. Why the bags are in your community? Now, in Canada, that's not going to work. Because if you're driving along in Ottawa, down around the river, you see that, you're extra stage left because you're Canadian. You're not going to be, anybody tries to lie to you and say that's not radiation, you're a Canadian, you're just going to kick the shit out of whoever it was right on the spot. You're not going to put up with it. So Canada, Montreal, and all the rivers picking up all these bags is not going to give the game away? Please. But anyway, that's the story of Pickering, Ontario, and I'm sticking to it, okay? Let me see if I screwed up the stream tonight. Oh, still looking okay. The bags will make for a great Easter egg hunt. There we go, 7:21, 1 hour, 21 minutes. 1 hour, 20 minutes. 1 hour, 20 minutes. So I got to pick up another one of these tomorrow. That was $850 today. I'll probably do the same thing tomorrow. And then we're going to go buy a drone to replace the one we brought back. So please donate. Links are below the video. Let's make it happen. Let's get out there and do the expeditions. Get it over it. Get back, tell the story. Get back in their faces. Start stomping the shit out of these despicable industry one more time. Who knows? Like we're gonna have a real operation by the time I get back, so it'll be self-sustaining on its own because we'll have all the equipment. I'm sure before the next couple of months are up, as we start moving up the coastline this week. We got a lot of work to get all the way up to Alaska border and start coming down the coastline doing the species counts. And they got to be done. We got to tell the story. The world has to move forward. We can't move forward on lies and bananas and potato chips. It's got to be the truth. And you can arrest me all you want and give me all the gag orders like you have, and vilify me in the media and demonize me worldwide like you have, but you're not going to stop me. Why is it such a crime to fight for your future too? How did I become the bad guy by trying to help you and your friends and your families and your loved ones? I'll never understand. I don't think I'll even try anymore. I'll do the research and I'll keep in their faces every day from here to the end of infinity, because I'll produce so much material, my words will haunt them forever in every generation. And that's going to be my legacy. And yours too, because you put me in this position, because you asked for me. You begged the world for someone to come and go to war, and I did, and I am, and I will. And I'm the right one for the job. Not because I want to, but because I was made for the job. And you know that, I know that. I accept that. And that the truth will set us free, then we're free. That's for friggin' sure. Hugs for everybody. God bless you all. And extra hugs for Elaine, Shanikin775 for moderating and supporting us endlessly, and everybody else out there. 100% thank you, folks. In the last couple of days, yesterday we raised another 178. So huge opportunity to get the rest of the equipment before I take off, because there's no more shops once I pull out of here. Once I get 30 miles up the coast, there's no more shops. So I got to get what I'm going to get before I go, or it's going to be difficult and expensive to get it at the other end of Canada, and it's a long way to go, and we'll do it. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow, 7:30 or 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here for Friday's show. I got a stupid amount of work, so we'll jimmy something together. We'll see what the news brings us. Hugs for everybody. See everybody tomorrow. Take care.